And away we go. Hi, everybody. It's Dan Boul from 65 Amps. How are you? Today is September 4th, 2013. Holy Moses, which I had to say on the eve of Rosh Hashanah. Happy New Year to all my Hebrew brothers celebrating Rosh Hashanah. Hopefully you're taking off work today and going out for some cocktails.
It's hot out there.
It is. It's very hot. And that voice you hear who doesn't want to come on camera is Brett Chasen.
Well, I'll come. It's just a narrow kind of thing. And
I think you do a thing. Do a thing like this.
I don't want people to get the wrong impression.
Why?
It's very.
Are you going to make lewd movements behind me? You can come up.
I wouldn't call. I'd do them in front of you.
Yeah. You're one of those guys.
Oh.
It is 5773 if you're watching the Hebrew calendar today, and once again, Happy New Year.
5773, and I've been writing 5772 on my checks
forever.
It's going to be very tough for.
I know. I still write 56 when I start.
Yeah, I'm having issues with this freaking.
Hey. So anyway, today we have in the house Little Elvis, and I'm going to tell you the story of Little Elvis, which I find to be very entertaining. It's Bob Kulick.
Hey, Bob.
What's going on? He makes it. And Elvis is a really cool amp. Some of you have probably heard this story already, so I'll tell it again, and you'll just have to humor me. Yeah, Lugosi, please send those names through Facebook. That's great. Spain has been sort of a black hole for us. I don't know why. I like that door open, actually.
Better?
Yeah, you get like a little verb off of it. Yeah, it's good. Oh, how much? You know, I was just saying Happy Rosh Hashanah to everybody too.
Happy Rosh Hashanah to you.
And then I get hit with a service charge. How much is verb, Bob?
Well, you know, we have two prices. One is the stranger's price, and then one is the, you know, the people that we know that we like, which you are. So,
oh, good. Well, good. Can you guys hear that? A little bit of room sound? I like it. It sounds really good.
Not too shabby. More AC will blow in with the door open. You know, I don't know about, I'm not going to mention the names, but I just don't know about them putting pictures of Facebook like that, man. Like, dude, I really didn't need to see that.
Wow, some things you just can't unsee.
Now, I will give him one thing. He's as strong as a fucking ox.
Oh, apparently, yeah.
He's retarded strong, dude. But, you know, to work for those guys, to be on the road with those guys, you got to be a freaking bull run. He's huge.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm so distracted now. I'm questioning myself. All right, you're playing bass with me right now, Steve? All right. So you're doing the... Yeah, when are we going to be able to get the drums mic'd up and the whole thing? And we can... Everybody loves Bang A Gong for some reason.
Just see there's no camera out there.
Yeah, that's true. But still,
I mean,
we can fix that. We can fix that.
You still can do it.
Yeah.
According to your stream, they want to hold you. They really want you to pay for the privilege.
Rock and Roll Willie says, what speaker cab do you like best with Elvis, Dan? Well, I'm using our 212 now that has the Alnico Blue and the G12H30. When I use it with my band, I just use a little 112 with the G12H30 in it, and it's plenty. It sounds big. Sounds really, really big. It's just a thumping little amp, and you just feel like you're playing a man amp at low volumes. It's very cool. So let's tell you about Elvis. Little Elvis is a nickname we gave the amp in the shop when it was in the prototype stage. And you remember the old Saturday Night Live skit with Nicolas Cage, little tiny Elvis on his shoulder? Remember that? And they'd go riding around, and he'd make Red and the boys, they'd go riding around in the Cadillac, and Elvis would just give them really bad advice and tell them to do really illegal, dangerous things.
What was this?
On Saturday Night Live, Nicolas Cage had this recurring character called Tiny Elvis. and he was this big. And the whole premise of the thing was, no matter how small Elvis is, he's still a badass, right? He's still a powerful guy. And so I'll tell you the story of how we came up with this, which I think you'll find interesting. But when we came up with it, we were just like, man, it's just like Tiny E. It's little, but it's badass. And so that was its nickname. And then usually all of our amps, we have a fun nickname for them when they're prototyping. And as we get to market, we come up with a better name that makes sense. Like the London was called Lonnie Donegan, and the Soho was Lumpy, and
I like Lumpy.
Lumpy, that was the Soho.
Lumpy's, that's cool, man.
So for a year, we'd walk around going, "Hey, let's spend some time with Lumpy." And the Empire,
Lumpy,
God.
really, that works.
The Ventura was Mr. Belvedere. And then what was the Empire was
Never mattered before.
the Empire was something like Dr. Evil. I can't remember, but because we'd watched Mike Myers movies. But so Little Elvis was the nickname on this. First it was Tiny E, then it was Shiny E, and then it became Little Elvis because it's a little bigger than Tiny Elvis. So how this amp came about, and this was the cool part. Let me tell you the basics of the topology in here. First off, it's a pair of VL84s, and there's 3 12AX7s in the front end. One of them, of course, being the phase inverter, and the other is a gain stage cathode follower, and a tremolo. But there's something unique in the circuit. One of the gain stages is not a regular gain stage. So how it came about is over at the old 65 amp shop, our good friend Jim Elliott was putting together this book called The History of JMI Vox, and he had the largest Vox collection on the planet, which at the time was about 225 JMI Voxes. And for those of you that don't know, JMI stands for Jennings Musical Instruments. And that was the original incarnation of Vox. It started in 1954, and they sold the company in 1965. Jennings Musical Instruments was ran by two gentlemen, Tom Jennings, from the J, and Dick Denny, who was sort of the guy that came up with the ideas. And he would cocktail napkin all the stuff out. And then their head engineer was a guy named Derek Underdown, who started with him in the 50s. And Derek Underdown was the guy that would turn Dick's ideas into real products. Many people credit Derek Underdown for being the real brains behind JMI Vox. So the Beatles come out and they hit gigantic, and they're playing these funny little English amps that most people over here were not aware of. All of a sudden, Vox's business increased tenfold, and they couldn't handle it. And they sold to a company in England called the Royston Group. And at which point, the Royston Group did what they had to do to put the amps into mass production, kind of unavoidable, and a lot of the hand-wired aspects of Vox started to go down, mainly the hand-wired transformers. So the JMI Voxes, for the most part, until the very, very end, had hand-wound transformers in them. And that's why sort of 64 is the primo Vox. That's when Vox was really at the top of their game. And so anyway, Mike Francischini over at the old shop, and Joe and Wayne and all the guys, we were going through all these amps for Jim for the book. And at the very end of it, Jim comes over with this chassis that was a prototype. Obviously, I mean, the chassis was literally nailed into the cabinet. There were no screws on it, and it had been drilled up, and there were burnt wires everywhere that weren't connected to stuff. And it was a funky little amp, and he said, "Hey, can you look at this? Because I'm not sure what it is." And at this point, we'd gone through a couple hundred Voxes. We felt like we knew Vox, or know Vox now, better than almost anybody. Even the guys at the original Vox company never did what we did, So turned it on. It sounded really cool. It has a great distortion. And but then I called Jim, and I said, "Jim, I don't think this is a Vox." "Oh, why is that?" "Well, the circuit's like none of the other Voxes." And he had every variation of everything Vox made. So it's nothing like any of the other amps that I've seen. And the transformers are from a company. I had to do some serious sleuthing to figure out who made the transformers. And it was a little hi-fi company in Britain called Souter. And Vox had never used solder transformers. And the output transformer is what they call butt stacked, which is a really old way of doing an output transformer. Now they're EI stacked, where they pull it, the laminations attract each other when you magnetize them and charge them. With a butt stacked one, they're magnets. They want to push apart, and so when you charge the transformer, if you don't have a frame around it, it'll explode. So you can understand why people quit making transformers that way. So we went. Anyway, I love the amp. I thought it was just fantastic, just for the distortion. So I pulled the transformers off of it, took it over to Mercury Magnetics. They cloned them, improved them, made them safer, the whole thing. But we got the same performance or better than the original ones from solder. And then we made a copy over at the shop because I love the amp so much. And then so Jim's doing the book release party, and he threw a really large party, and Derek Underdown, the gentleman I told you about, was coming over for the party. And he's like an 80-year-old English gentleman at the time. And Jim called me and said, hey, I need a big favor. Can you take care of Derek for the day? You lived in England, do the whole English thing. And I said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. And Derek came over to the shop, loved what we did, very complimentary. I took 24 pages of notes sitting around talking to him about Vox. And then at the end of it, I pulled out, Derek, I want to show you this one amp. And I pulled it out, and I said, do you remember this amp? He said, oh, yeah, I remember that. That was Dick's amp. That was Dick Denny's amp. And it was just a toy. It sat in his office, and I had to fix it for him all the time. I said, well, we really like the distortion on it. And I made a copy. We're trying to, and he lit up. He got his big reading glasses out and took off his tweed jacket and sat down and worked with us all day long. We did like 14 hours and came up with what ultimately became Little Elvis. And boy, he still had his chops. I mean, you got to ground it over here. You got to do this, and this wire routing, and this needs to be shielded, and blah, blah, blah. He just was all over it. It was so much fun. I think Mike probably had the best day he's had as an amp tech. And we came up with what, after some more work after that, became Little Elvis. And so there's a little mystery triode in this amp. We still don't know exactly what it does, and Derek's explained it to us, and I even took notes, and I read the notes. And all I know is the amp sounds really bad without it. And the way he came up with it, he even asked us, did you ever figure out what that one side of the dual triode does? I said, no. But we know the amp sucks without it. He goes, well, I was in the RAF during World War II, and I worked on radar stations. I was a tech, And the Jerrys were bombing the daylights out of us, and we always had to figure out a way to heat up the signal, get it back to London without distorting it. And that's what that triode is. It's an improv that I did while we were getting bombed one day, and I had to get a radar station back online, which was just moving to hear him tell it. And he told it just as matter-of-factly as I just said it. But you can just imagine, sitting there with bombs coming in, and you're attacking, people in London are going, we can't see the radar screen. You got to make something happen. Yes, Joe Riggio says, you understand how blessed you are to have had that experience. Yes, I do, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. So you have Little Elvis, which is 12 watts, and it sounds so big and so fat, and it's loud. Just disregard the number 12. It's loud, and it's a pair of EL84s. So the distortion's fantastic, and the clean sound is great. I'll hit you with a little bit of the distortion first, because I know we're all rock and rollers, but it's got the speed. Doesn't really sound too much like EL84s, and I can push it really hard. So I just push the volume up to 8. I like to run it right around 6. So when I take the bump off, I'm right on the edge of the tubes, right? Play with my fingers. Very nice. But if I hit the guitar, I mean, that is just 60s Britain written all over it. See how touch sensitive it is? I back down. Hans, you bring up a good point, and it is a little bit. It's counterintuitive because the name I thought it was an American ant, but it's very British. Um, it's just the concept of little Elvis. It's tiny little Elvis, but it's badass. I mean, I love that sound. That is, all that stuff, right? All those good Beatley sounds. Even with a Les Paul, you go. If I had a Strat, it'd be perfect. Empire rules. Yeah, I mean, you can get that ZZ Top kind of distortion on there. It works really well.
And you even sound in tune today.
Yeah, just for a minute. It's this guitar, so now that you've said it,
It'll be out of tune.
I'm screwed.
We can just call upon the Uber tuner.
Yeah, that's right. Uber Tuner, come hit me on Rosh Hashanah, Uber Tuner. But you can get your... It's good. It's
So if it's completely British,
yes.
it's got an American icon name.
That's what they were just saying on here. Yeah, it's a riddle wrapped in an enigma and a conundrum.
I like it.
Worth anomalizing.
Yes.
Your mind must be cascading with rivulet.
What he said.
Yeah, right.
That's it. Oh, you want to see the tremolo? Okay, so the original one didn't have a tremolo. We put a tube tremolo on it. You can activate it from a switch here on the knob or on the foot switch. But one of the things I put on the tremolo was an LED so you can see how fast it's going, which to me was always hugely important if you want to time it with a song. But yeah, you can get a really cool... Now the voltage is going way up and down on this tube now, so it gets a different kind of sound. You get a real... I wish I knew Black Hole Sun. That would be the perfect song to play with this sound. I'll learn it for you, I swear. I love a tube tremolo. You can really swamp it out. And if I drop the voltage on the whole amp, then the voltage swing can't be that high and the tube will really fart. It's really cool. So, yeah. That's with the master voltage down. So the voltage swing can't be very high because I've dropped the voltage on the whole amp, right? Yeah, Crimson and Clover. What key is that in? You can sing that. Crimson clover. Oh, you want the trippy Neil Young? You can sing that high, can't you?
Really?
10 soldiers and Nixon's
Doesn't mean
calling.
it's any good. It's very high.
See the LED going? I can time it.
It's like the Senate approved cereal.
What's that?
You need water? You got it.
Oh, I got that one. Yeah, thank you. I'm good. Hear the tube swell? And you can kick it off here if you want. Yeah, the tremolo will affect the sound because it's the voltage going up and down on that triode, and that's the last stage before the phase inverter. So it's a real tube bias tremolo. So it's like someone standing there with a volume knob going like this. It's not a Fender style where they just interrupt the sound, you know. This is
It's a
actually
really cool
dropping.
sound, though.
It's fun.
It's fun. You know, and the other thing, give me a clap for 1 second.
Yeah, here.
Because another thing one can do with it, you got a pick there?
I do. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Kulick.
Put it on full out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, lead lines and stuff like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
you know.
The thing is,
It makes
since
real
it's a
noise
tube
and
bias,
that,
you can
yeah.
pick through it.
Yeah, which I really love.
Yeah, but you don't lose the pick attack. You know, like on a Fender tremolo, if you hit the pick at the moment it's being interrupted, it's just gone.
Correct.
Yeah, and this will play right through.
This is fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the other.
You can hear it all. It's fun. Swell. Yeah, you can pick over it.
Great sound. That is a really cool sound.
Oh yeah, you can really push it up.
Yeah.
It almost gets less than right.
It simulates the sound of a Leslie, which back in the day, a lot of guys would
Yeah.
take an amp and try to drive a Leslie through it to
Right.
get that sound.
To get
Elton
that
John
sound.
did that.
Yeah.
You know, Beatles did
Let's
that.
do it real quick. I'll let you play some more, but this
No,
is
no,
what
no.
this is what always happens whenever I hear this.
Try prime example, I would say. I'll go get the Julian Lennon we did that song on the compilation record. It was
Really?
a very difficult song to play. And a song that kind of breaks the rules and then it speeds up and slows way down.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna drop two
Yeah,
here.
you already dropped these. Listen to that. The spaceship is landing.
That's right.
Let's see if Dan can tune with his tremolo.
Tune of the
Is it helping or hurting?
awful.
It's all right. Appropriately, it was definitely a sound that 60s bands went
Yeah,
after.
right.
It was one of the,
It was a Leslie, yeah.
it was a sound effect that was a musical sound effect
Yeah.
that they could attach to a playing thing
Right.
with simply either a pedal or using an
Oh,
amp
yeah.
that had the device already pre-built in.
Exactly.
But you know, even bad had
yeah.
some kind of phaser, flanger,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of tremolo unit plugged on there. So
But you actually played to the effect.
right. Right.
It wasn't like
Correct.
I'm not just putting some slapdash layer on what I'm playing. They use the effect as music.
Or when
Yeah.
somebody would use it as a Leslie sound, as a pseudo Leslie sound, to simulate a Leslie, and play some licks on it, it sounded like they were playing through a Hammond organ.
Oh yeah. Now you take that and you go 5 years forward,
5 years worth.
and we get the melody. Well, I'm a joker. I'm a smoker.
Recognize this
I'm a
song?
midnight toker.
You're Midnight Toker?
Get my love in the sun.
Great song.
Anyway, there you go.
And the old
Tremolo.
Crimson Clover and all of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's all right there. Hey, Synaptic Groove, what's going on? Yeah, the cool thing about, that's why I put that light on there, because how do you know how fast your tremolo is going to use it musically, where it's not just some additional coat of paint you put on, where you want to use it, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, somebody might want to line it up so it's exactly.
Yeah, I've done that on a bunch of old Fenders, where it's like, there's voltage going to the tube. I'm just going to cut a little LED on there so I can
Right.
see how fast it's oscillating. Seemed like such an obvious thing to do. Yeah, you got your Steve Miller fix.
So we've gone from Elvis to the Beatles to Steve Miller now.
Yeah,
With a little, Crimson and Clover.
little
there,
schmutz in the
yeah.
middle. Right. Oh, look how far off I was.
See, but with the tremolo on, it was really hard to tell because it
Yeah,
sounded
you
so
can
good.
get away with anything, right?
There you go. That helps make some noise. Fills in the gaps.
Yeah, man, it works. What's new and exciting with you, Bob?
Well, I got some
I missed
really
a call from you
interesting-
last night. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I
I was only insulted. It's okay.
don't be.
Um,
When I'm home, I'm a dad. So
I got it. I got it.
it's not that I don't love you.
No, and I didn't take it as a non-love situation.
Yeah.
He loves me.
But I figure I'm going to see him in the morning. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, what's new and exciting?
Tell
Let's
us
see if I can
about.
get in here.
Yeah, I can't turn the camera, so let me
I
move.
understand. So
Let me
if you
move a little
then they
bit.
could actually see part of my head, and then they could see part of.
Well, we can
Brett's
be
head
close and
stuff.
intimate. It's fine. You
Like
seem to
this?
you seem to have really good hygiene, so I'm cool.
I do have good hygiene. I showered today. I shaved. When you shave your head, I think it's important. I mean, a lot of guys like the stubble kind of look. I try to shave every day this way. Even if they don't like the look, at least they could say he's clean.
And with this spotlight on your head too.
It cuts down on the glare. But what I was going to say is I've been rehearsing with myself to learn the songs because I'm going to be playing with the legendary Dick Wagner
Oh, no
a
kidding.
weekend from this weekend.
Nice, where?
The 13th and 14th at the Westin Hotel
Yeah.
here in Los Angeles. They're having the Rock and Roll Autograph Show. So if you want to check this out,
Nice.
Rock and Roll Autograph Show. It's basically a convention of rock and roll guys, people from Leonard Skinner and name drummers, guitar players, and singers from all over the place. Bridging the gap from years of it's Mark Lindsay and Chuck Negron and guys from
Yeah.
Leonard Skinner. And,
Yeah. I know a lot of
all
those
sorts
Skinner
guys. Yeah,
I
they're
know a
coming.
lot of them Skinner boys from
Yep, they'll be coming, and
when
some of
I-
us is going to be playing.
when I lived in Atlanta. I used to interact with those guys a lot.
Cool.
Nice guys.
I'm looking forward to meeting some of the people that I don't know.
Have you ever sat down and talked with them? Like,
No,
so,
I'm
man,
looking forward to meeting them. I don't know them.
They're super, super sweet because
Yeah,
they're like
yeah.
Southern gentlemen.
Yeah.
But the best thing is you're like, so when you guys were cutting, Street Survivors, and they're like, no memory whatsoever. Like what?
Yeah, some guys remember every little thing.
They have no
Quote Jim
clue.
Steinman. And other guys
Yeah.
can't remember what guitar they even played.
They
what
haven't-
studio they were at.
Those boys keep Kentucky alive as far as the bourbon
Yeah.
industry is concerned, and they literally
Well, I
they
hope
just
the
kind of
Westin
shrug
bar
their
is
shoulders and
stocked
go,
then, you know.
and they're like, man, don't be hurt because I'd love to share everything with you. I honestly don't remember a thing.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I'm
I'll
like,
bet.
okay, cool, but
So-
they're really sweet.
Yeah.
Now
I'm
what
not-
Ricky Medlock's playing with them, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm
He
not
was the
exactly
original-
sure which guys are showing up, but if you go online, you can see
Yeah.
the names. But Dick's putting together a band with me and Mark Farner from
Oh,
Grand
nice.
Funk.
Oh, nice.
You know, yeah, and Leland Sklar.
Oh, I love Lee.
Yeah.
Lee is like the guy.
I think that he's getting Danny Seraphin. Is that the drummer from Chicago? Is it Danny Seraphin?
Could be.
Yeah, or Carmine Appice. One of them is going to
Yeah.
play drums. That's the band that he wanted.
Well, if you got
know,
Lee
so-
in your rhythm section, you're gold.
Oh, I know. You know, he mentioned the guy. Said I never played with him, but I definitely love to meet him.
Oh,
you know,
he's amazing.
Dick Wagner, for those of you who don't know, was the guitar player that played with Alice Cooper and Lou Reed, and was the guitar player that wrote "Only Women Bleed"
Oh, really?
and "I'll Never Cry." And
I
You
didn't
and
know
Me,
that.
he wrote hit singles for Dick Wagner, along with writing, Black Widow and some of those
Yeah,
other
yeah,
songs.
yeah.
The guy's an accomplished writer.
Which
and-
Westin Hotel?
LAX.
LAX. Oh,
Yeah,
it's
the
this
airport.
weekend?
No, next weekend.
Next
the
weekend.
12th, 13th.
I
and
might have to
14th.
show up.
You might have to show up.
I might
yeah, you
have
should
to
come
show
and see
up.
the show at least. Whether
Oh,
you walk
sure.
around and
Well, I'll come support
participate in that
come
stuff.
support my bros either way.
Well, you can come buy some photos from me or some on sale CDs.
I'll have
and
my
stuff.
girls come up and like fawn over you. Oh, Bob, it's Bob Kearley,
How much
please.
can I charge them for photos?
My daughters? Yeah, I don't know. They're only 8 and 10.
We'll give them a couple of 20s this way.
Yeah, here's
This
some
way it'll
cash.
look like something. I'll bring the
Go, yeah.
guy over. See.
We'll be
Yeah.
like the seed in the crowd. We'll get it going.
Yeah, there you go. There you
But I
go.
mean, just with Mark Farner and Lee Sklar, that's.
Well, it should be a
that's
good band. I
great.
mean, Dick Wagner is, is a tremendous singer.
Now,
and
is your
writer.
brother going to be?
No, he's actually not going to be there. 'Cause
Oh,
he's,
okay. He's in the other.
out of town.
He's doing the other.
Right, it's funny, it's
Grand
ironic,
Funk.
but
yeah,
even back in the day, Dick Wagner had hired me to play guitar on Mark Farner's record while he was still in Grand Funk.
Oh, really?
And then years later, my brother, after he left Kiss, wound up playing and is still playing with Grand Funk, the version without Mark Farner.
the Sans Mark version. Oh.
Correct. And Mark's got his own little version. So, but
Wow.
last time I saw Mark, we had a really nice chat, and he's really good friends from Dick. They're both up from
I
that
love that
Detroit
band
area
so
there.
much when I was a kid.
And I hope that Mark sings some too, because he's a
Has
really
he
great
still got
singer.
his voice?
I'm sure.
Yeah?
He was a great singer. I mean, the songs
That's some
that
pretty
Wagner
high
told
stuff.
me,
Yeah.
he sent me demos of them, and the guy still sounds unbelievably good.
Oh, that's cool.
He sadly he has had some strokes and he's had some real
Yeah.
problems, but he seems ready to rock, and I'm excited to support somebody who was sort of my mentor back in the day. I
Yeah.
learned a tremendous amount about guitar playing and tuning and writing.
Teach
and,
me about tuning.
Well, you put your strings on, Dan, and then you go to Mr. Tuner and you discuss it with him.
Rule number 1: never play a Gibson.
Well, I think any guitar can be tamed.
Yeah.
You just have to understand what you're dealing with.
Gibsons only stay in tune if the strings are less than a week old. That's what I.
I don't know. For me, if you get them in tune and they're old strings, they're
Yeah.
lazy and they just stay put.
Yeah.
They're
This.
fatigued and they're beat up and they're just like, just hang out here,
Oh,
we'll be
yeah.
all right. Just hang out here.
Enough already with
the-
the peg.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these guys are not going to change strings. They're too lazy. The Boul guy occasionally he'll change, but everybody else, they're not so much.
That's funny. All right, let's see. Question for Bob. Playing
Question?
guitar, performing guitar can be a tough task to sound good most of the time. How much do you practice to keep in prime shape playing wise?
I kind of view it as a prize fighter. I don't really keep in shape to play gigs unless I have a gig coming up. And at that point, I go into my Rocky training. So I play for a couple of hours until the calluses start to build up, and then I won't play the next day. Then I'll play for a couple of more hours.
Do you, like,
so I build up the
practice-
calluses.
How do you practice? Because this is a good question. Because there's a lot of guys here that are guitar players, probably all of them. And I think a lot of the thing that's lost when you watch someone like Bob play on stage is that it looks like it's easy for them, and it's frustrating to understand, why can't I do that? And I know that you probably went through a period in your life where you sat down and woodshedded and practiced, like,
Right. Well,
methodically,
right,
sitting
but
around
that was
going,
but that was sort of a learning practice.
But
This
like-
is here you have a set list of songs that
Yeah.
we're going to play.
Right.
And the way I look at it is this: you should be able to, without an amp, without the crutch of the sound, be able to sit
Right.
and play the songs by yourself.
That's right.
Cold. Period.
Right. Uh-huh.
No excuses. Solos and all. If you can do that, that's the worst it's ever going to sound. And
Yeah.
when you plug into an amp, you can only be inspired knowing that you know the songs cold. That's the best way. That's
oh
my
yeah.
way.
But as far as like just the physical fitness of your hands,
Physical fitness
do you
is
ever
difficult.
do you ever sit around and just go?
Never unless it's part of the song. If there's a scale in the song I'm playing,
Oh, yeah.
then so I did Love Gun,
Right.
so I practiced the riff. Just,
But I mean,
just,
but you've been
but
playing for
no,
like more than 10 years.
more than 15 or 20 or
Yeah,
30 or
40, whatever. Yeah,
I can't even say it. I'm so old.
I know. In 2 years, I will have been playing guitar for 40 years. That's what freaks me out.
But when you start when you're one, then it's a good thing.
Yeah, right. I start when I was a sperm.
When you
But, but
when
no,
you
but
were,
I mean, I
when you were
went.
just a twinkle in your dad's eye.
But I've gone through periods where I didn't really play enough guitar. And like I'm kind of in that shape right now where I play guitar and I realize I don't have mastery over it.
Yeah.
Like I can't just do what I want to do. I can't do what I hear.
Yeah.
And I'll sit down and actually run scales and patterns, diatonic six. And just to get the fingers moving. And then once you get which these are small muscles, you can build them up in days and weeks, not
Right.
in months.
Right.
And
That's correct. That's
not
correct.
weeks and months.
Right. The cali, however,
Yeah.
to me, are it's a
Exactly.
critical issue. If you're a rhythm player, maybe not as much. I can play rhythm guitar without much callicization, shall we say. I made that word up on my fingers. But some of the stuff I've been doing lately has been a lot of high note
And
soloing.
you're a big bender guy too.
And a big bender guy, especially the overbendies.
Yes.
So those require some serious cali.
That's right.
And usually the rehearsal before the gig, I'm at that point where I can't play until the gig.
Right.
So the last time I played Vegas a couple of weeks ago, we had a rehearsal the night before, and you always say to yourself, well, whatever you're a little unsure on, you can run over in the hotel room. I won't go near the guitar.
Right.
I won't go near it.
No.
So it lets my fingers rest,
And recover.
build up that
Yeah.
cali, and then
Right.
when I get to the venue, then I warm up a little bit,
Right.
knowing that now you're going to play through an amp, and the amp is going to be your friend and help you by sustaining the chords and,
That's right.
and helping the general vibe and the feel of what's
Right.
going on. But if you can play without an amp, unless you have one of Dan's amps, then I would never play without an amp.
Oh my God.
I said that,
Oh my God.
but I meant it sincerely.
Yeah.
You guys got phenomenal amps that you could turn down and actually play.
Yeah, I mean,
Somebody could
we're
be asleep next door.
we're
and you
playing
can
with
still
the
get your
door
sound.
open here in the hallway.
You know,
so.
he makes quality stuff that look at the size of his head here. You could.
But
you could
look at the size of
bring
my
it to
head.
the
though.
bathroom. You could play while you're taking a crap.
But see, look at the size of this head. I mean, I have a Cabeza Grande.
I
have
had a
to
partner
make.
once whose head was twice as big as mine.
I can't even buy a hat.
No, I meant physically, not that he was a
yeah,
big-headed
not
guy.
figuratively speaking.
No.
But I mean, I can't even buy a hat.
I got to that later.
Yeah, but I can't even buy a hat. I have to order them. And no one makes a hat that fits my head. But
Is that true?
yeah,
I got some big hats that people give. I should bring them down.
I mean, if I shave my head, I could probably wear a 7 3/4, which is the biggest production hat there is.
Right, but what about the ones that you can expand at the end? That can
The
expand
baseball
for those-
kind of things. Some of them work, some of them don't. But no, the
So I have the
point,
opposite problem because my head is small because I have no hair. Then the
That's
little
why-
hat still hangs down past my nose.
and
you
that's
know?
why it's presentable, though.
That's why I can hide myself away.
But no, the point I was getting at, boy, we digress. The point that
We
I was
digressed.
the point that I was getting at was whether you're a formal woodshedder or whether you're a guy that practices
Would a formal woodshedder
material.
actually have like a woodshed?
Yeah, And
Okay, go ahead. I'm just
like,
checking.
no, I mean it's like an outhouse
Yeah, so a place to go.
With
What Dan's saying is
with corn cobs.
to be not distracted, to not sit there and watch TV, to not be on the phone,
Right.
to seriously practice, because somebody else, you can bet your bottom dollar, is out there doing that,
Right.
and they'll get the gig you could get if you're not the one
But
practicing.
there's an element that's common with all styles of guitar players, and that's what we're kind of illustrating here. Is there's a certain amount of dedication and time you have to dedicate to the guitar. If you're playing guitar with your buddies and jamming and drinking or whatever, or you're sitting around playing your favorite blues lick, aka going to any music store at the lunch hour and there's a bunch of middle-aged white guys playing the blues, you know,
They're playing Born in Chicago.
that's not being that's not being a guitar player. That's being, you know, if you sit around and just play, you know, all day long, you already know how to do that.
Yeah, and also a lot of
Yeah.
guys, you know, especially in our productions, we find that a lot of guys, okay, the solo is the chance for the guitar player to step out and make a statement. I understand, but the body of the work is rhythm guitar.
Right.
I'm impressed sometimes more by somebody who
98% of the song.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm impressed sometimes more by somebody who can wield out precisely put together rhythms that sound great, in
Right.
tune, with a great amp,
Oh,
with
yeah.
feel, using the right voicings and intonations for the chords that they're trying to
That's right.
showcase, as opposed to somebody playing a 15-second solo and then you're having to hold their finger down to make a baby D chord.
That's right. And but there's just a dedication. You have to put to
Absolutely.
the art. Just like if you're a golfer, you go out and practice in the sand trap.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not going to hit a sand shot every time you go play golf. But if you can't hit the sand shot, you're not going to win. And you got to sit around and practice stuff that's kind of boring, but it makes your hands better. It makes you a better player. And in Bob's case, where he's got shows to do, he gets where he can play these songs without looking at the guitar, and he can interact with the audience. And he can play. Look at every picture of Bob playing guitar. Is he going like this? No. He's smiling right at the camera. Fuck you, I can play. Right? You know, because he knows the material, you know. And there's also probably at these shows nice looking women up close, and you want to maybe look at them instead of your guitar and go, oh, does it go to the 6 or the 7 now? I can't remember.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta put a certain amount of yeah, you're right. There's a lot of good shredders that are actually really good rhythm players. And
There are. Those are the guys that I really respect because they spend time on both.
yeah.
You know.
And I'm a big rhythm guitar guy.
Yeah,
And
me
you tell
too.
by the way I play, I don't
Yeah.
sit around and rip much. I'm comfortable taking solos and I have no problem with it, but you know, that's why I sit there and even just like what we were doing a minute ago, playing Bang a Gong. I've heard 300 guys play that and no one gets the rhythm right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because it's
Correct.
there's a lag, there's a caesura in there that you have to
There's,
get.
there's a nuance that if you listen carefully, you do hear it,
has
as
to
opposed to
roll.
just sludging through it.
Yeah, most guys sit there and go, no, it swings.
Yeah. That's correct. That's right.
It lopes.
That's right.
You know, so it's all
Mark
about.
Bolan, he did have that. That was
oh,
one
yeah.
thing he did come up with.
Oh, you know what? I just reminded me. While you're here, I brought in this bitchin' guitar that I wanted to share with you guys and these guys, and they've heard enough. Oops, heard
He's
enough
so
of the
good at
Les
sharing
Paul.
stuff. He's a real sharing guy.
This, would you mind grabbing it for me since I'm wired in here? That
Sure.
gold guitar.
Right there.
My business partner Peter designed this
We got a pick too.
with Andy Elliott. Andy Elliott's a guy that made that telly that I brought last week.
Oh yeah.
Peter designed that. If you look at it, it's kind of a Telly and a Jaguar and a Les Paul Jr. all mixed into one guitar. It's got a string-through bridge like a Telly does. It's got P90s wound on Jazzmaster bobbins. Let me just show these guys real quick.
Sure,
Trade you, and then I'll let you play it. It's got kind of a big ass neck because Peter has Arsenio Hall fingers. So check it out. It's string through like a Telly.
Very nice.
It's got a Telly bridge on it.
Very nice.
These are P90s wound on Jazzmaster bobbins.
Look at the size of them.
And then it's got the Jazzmaster dual electronic thing
Holy
on it.
moly! Look at that thing.
And then the neck and everything is set up like a Junior. And then Andy uses, premium wood.
What
So-
about the little flip switches on top? Do they split coils?
Oh, this?
Yeah, what
These
is
are
that?
just tone knobs for
Just
each
tone?
pickup.
So it's
Yeah.
so.
But they're P90s, so of course they're noisy
yeah.
as hell. But this is made by Andy. Right now it's got 9s on it because Peter used it on a television show a couple months ago. Peter's
Trying to help
gone.
them with the ratings, so he put 9s on.
Well, Peter's been playing for a living since '78 or something, and it's just his. Gotta love Andy Elliott. That's right. But it's just a rude ass guitar. And if I'd go down to the clean sound, it's got that P90 thing where you just roll it. Oh, excuse me. Choking on my gum. And
Actually,
Pete-
looking guitar too.
yeah, Peter can. This is auto body paint.
Motto's,
Yeah.
It's like a guitar. You're right.
Yeah, this is Peter Stroud designed this, and it's called Tone Master. But this is the Peter Stroud signature version. So this was the first one that Peter got, and then he got another one later that he liked. It was white and different colors, and he just gave this one to me. Just roll back just a little bit. Almost acoustic guitar kind of sound. You can see for Peter's gig, where he's got to do the. Yeah. And then hit a little harder. But even with the bump on, I can roll this down just a little further. It just rings with this string through bridge like this. You just
Very cool.
Jaguars don't sustain,
No.
They're jazz masters. Yeah. You get all those. Have at
Very
it.
nice.
Have at it.
That's a beauty.
It's very cool. The neck's kind of unusually large, but.
I got one.
Oh, you got one. Okay, cool.
No, I'm good. So here, check this out. I'll go down to bump off and then go up here. Right.
You can do that total jazz master. I like that. The pink one that Pete used to demo the Ventura is Ace. Yeah, he's got a few of them now. Brown Eyed Girl.
What I like is you can hear all the notes. Great
There we
guitar.
go. Oh, guys are commenting on here. Let me trade you back real quick.
Okay, sure.
Just noodle around. We'll wrap up the show
No,
here
no,
shortly.
no.
Thank you, Bob. That sounds
Thank you, Dan. I
good.
love that guitar. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's fun. Actually, I know the guy really well, Andy's.
Great. That's I like that. I like the neck. The neck is really good.
Yeah, it's really chunky. I don't know if I told you about Andy, but and there's a lot of great guitar makers around. But Andy, besides being arguably one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, he's one of those guys. The West Coast equivalent of him, I think, is Michael DeTemple out here in Van Nuys. But he gets a piece of wood and he finds its resonant frequency.
Right.
And he's a wood guy. He really knows wood.
So he feels that the wood itself
Has tone.
has a tonality.
Yeah. And so he'll move the wood around and he'll find the right section of the wood and he'll remove wood until the wood itself resonates somewhere on the harmonic scale. And you can even go to him and say, I'd like a guitar, like, a lot of our friends tune down a half step. And you can go to him and say, I want a guitar that resonates at D sharp. And so even no matter where you're playing on the neck, there's no non-harmonic overtones.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I never thought of that.
Yeah, and he can adjust it. But he can measure it, and he'll show you this particular guitar resonates at G.
Got it.
And, because the purpose of what it was for, a lot of Cheryl stuff is in G.
Yeah.
And so, or it's in C, or it's in F, or it's in D, so
Yeah.
G is a welcome part of that scale.
Exactly.
So you just get this added layer
there I am.
of ooh la la on top of it. And the guy's a real artisan. And if you guys ever get a chance, somebody Synaptic Groove put the link up here. It's ElliotGuitarsNC.com. He's in North Carolina, so it's ElliotGuitarsNorthCarolina.com. Call and talk to Andy just for fun. He is the nicest, sweetest guy in the world. And I'm happy to call him a really dear friend of mine. And he really knows what he's doing. He just knows what he's doing, and he's thought about it to such a degree. So Peter he actually approached Peter and said he'd like to make a guitar for him. I got to stay close to the mic here, sorry.
No, fine.
And Peter gets that offer about once a week because of his gig. And so Peter kind of said, okay, tough guy, here's what I want. And Andy went, yeah, sure, I can do that.
Wow.
Well, you want to come over to the shop, make sure it's right? And Peter called me from there going, you're not going to believe this guy. You're not going to believe this guitar. And he makes 5 or 6 different models, and they're all at Telly I brought last week, Andy made it.
remember that.
Yeah, they're just crazy guitars. And the big secret is, don't tell Andy, he doesn't charge enough for them. They're like $3,500, considering that a custom shop Les Paul's $8,000 now. A custom shop Strat is $5,000, and you can get a guitar like this for $3,500. Someone asked if you were playing Words with Friends. But yeah, what I was doing, like exactly what you're doing, you go up here to the Jazz Master circuit. You can do.
Nice. Welcome to the Dan Boul Jazz Hour.
My name is Murph, and these are the magic tones.
I thought it was Dan Boul and the Boulettes.
Dan Boul and the Pins.
Very versatile instrument, especially with this amplification device that you have created.
That's right. Flip of a switch. Does that?
And he can't
massive-
explain why it does that. And
I know.
Perfectly.
I got a feeling
shows, and,
inside. Yeah,
you
that's
can't-
it.
yeah.
But
can't-
yeah, what's the other one? I guess the obligatory if you're going to. Calamity, man. It's just
all
nothing
sweet.
but calamity.
Get around.
I know.
Great lyric on that.
I used to have, in the band house when I was like in the music business, really.
My
playing.
generation, for those who don't know. Yeah.
I had spray painted on my bedroom wall in red paint. I hope I die before I get old. And
Did you get that from the song?
yeah, and everybody's like, "You don't want to live long?" I'm like, "No, I want to live forever."
Only John Entwistle and Keith Moon so far. The other guys
Yeah,
decided
I just
that
don't
living
want
was a
to.
better
I just don't
option.
want to get old. Well, what if you get old and you can't? I know. I'm talking about physically. I'm talking about here. I don't want to ever get old. It's this whole nonsense about I'm having a second adolescence or a midlife crisis. Like, why, man? Why'd you ever try to grow up in the first place?
I think as somebody who is older, that I can say that a number attached to a bunch of days in your life is less meaningful.
That's right.
Than how you perceive yourself, how you take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and your general disposition towards life.
Right.
I've been very lucky in that, people have said to me for years, you look exactly the same. I know why, because I shaved my head a while ago, so I'm not losing my hair. But
It hasn't turned gray, right?
The reality is that I'm the same size person, and my features haven't changed that much because I do take care of myself, and I do believe in the music gods, and I'm dedicating myself to music as I've done in my life. I feel that it's helped me because music is such a positive thing in all our lives, that to be able to have this gift and to be able to be around people like Dan, who has special gifts other than just being a player like myself. The guy's a creator, has facilitated the way that people can actually express their emotions. There's something really special in that, and that's why one of the reasons why I really enjoy his company and consider him in a short period of time to be a really good friend, because when you play,
Bob, you're
you
so
feel
nice,
you
man.
feel a
Thank
piece
you.
of somebody's soul, and this guy's got a tremendously open, generous soul. He's such a nice guy.
I'm gonna blush.
And such a straight shooter, and somebody who I'm glad to be sitting next to.
Oh,
So,
Bob, that is so generous. Thank you, man. I feel the same way about you guys.
thank
I
you
mean,
very
I
much.
just instantly felt like I walked in here and met old family.
Well, again, because we're all players, and because we share this
Neurosis.
something that you can't put your finger on. It's not a tangible thing. It's a feeling. It's a vibe. It's a mutual respect for somebody else who has a special gift. The gift of being able to make music that makes people happy. So I recognize this and adore everyone who, like Dan, can do stuff that's special for all of you out there. So there you have it. You didn't pay me a nickel to say that.
I'm very humbled. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I-
You deserve to have nice things said about
Well,
you because
thank you.
you are somebody who does give a
Could
shit.
you speak to my bankers?
I will speak to whoever you like me to speak to. Can't promise anything, but I can certainly bring my good vibe anywhere.
Well, that's so sweet, man. I appreciate it sincerely.
No
and I feel
problem.
the same
Thank
way
you.
about you guys.
Thanks so much.
It's a wonderful place, and we're of course having a blast here. Yeah, I think all musicians, if we're going to be honest, we're all damaged in one way or another, and the music fixes that hole.
Yeah.
That's in there for whatever reason. There's a myriad of reasons for it.
But again, if just going back to what I was
Yeah.
saying, if you look at it from that perspective, that
Yeah.
when you play, you share a piece of your soul.
right,
Some people find it harder to share than other people who are more open to sharing.
And there's some musicians that share so much that it's uncomfortably intimate.
Correct.
You know, like
Yeah.
for the longest time, you go way back. For the longest time, I couldn't listen to Robert Johnson
Yeah.
because it was too intimate. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, it's breaking my heart. You know. But I was going to say is the musicians, when you get around guys that are of the same cloth, there's an unwritten, unspoken thing that happens where you go, yeah, these are one of my brothers. And that's the way you guys are.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and even to the extent, last week I did my interview for the Kiss movie. It's an official Kiss movie. Gene and Paul and everybody are being interviewed and all of that. And I actually have corresponded with them over the past couple of days. They were excited to hear that I had done my part and all that stuff. You know, and I've been around the band since its inception, and the band's made an unholy, no pun intended, amount of money.
Since it's
Deserving-
Rosh Hashanah, I will say they've made enough money to make Solomon blush.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it still, though, comes down to the music. The one thing that they can always agree upon, the one thing that they're always excited to do, more than even counting the money.
Look at John and Paul.
Is getting up there and playing these songs for an appreciative crowd.
That's right.
This still is the number one thing, you know, and they really care about the fans and the fact that they continue to tour and dish it out. The true sign of greatness is longevity, and no matter what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame may think, Kiss certainly has proved that they are great.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's funny. You ever watch the Abbey Road movie?
Yeah.
John and Paul couldn't look at each other. They were ready to come to fisticuffs, and I think George Harrison was ready to break his guitar over Paul's head. Then they'd count in a song. They loved each other.
Yeah, and the magic would happen. The same with the Stones and a lot of bands where
They smile, they relax, they're looking at each other like, I love you.
Well, you know, someone once said to me, that's why they call it show business, because there's the show,
Right.
which is the easy part.
Yeah.
Then there's the business, which can create problems between people
Oh, yeah.
and problems for entities themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
So concentrating on the show part, which is another thing that you mentioned
Yeah.
to me, you know, I'm sort of being a Capricorn, I'm kind of a regimented guy, so, you know, a regimented routine of practice, but not playing scales, playing the songs that I'm going to play
Well, you're
without an
past
amp,
that
you know.
point in your life.
I
Like,
have,
you don't
I
need to
have,
sit around
yeah.
and go,
You know, yeah. If anything, I'm sitting around looking for new chords. What is that? And what am I playing now? It's sort of
Right.
a flat 5, raise 9, demolished 2. You know.
But yeah, no, you're at a different point in your arc, man.
Correct. I guess my arc is, you know,
Right.
in a slightly different zone these days than it was when I was first trying to get gigs in the first place. You know, when you go to auditions and try to outplay people and
Oh yeah.
out-impress them.
God,
you
I
know?
did that in the
You know,
80s here. I
yeah.
hated that part of my life. Kirk Spencer asked Bob, what you said can be experienced by those of us who are not famous, and the screensaver comes on, and just play to 200 at a club on the weekend. Absolutely.
Yeah. I wasn't implying that one had to be Paul Stanley to have this feeling.
That's right.
Certainly, I'm no big star. But what I'm saying is that if you can feel that,
Yeah.
that consider yourself lucky. There are
Oh,
people
yeah.
that can't feel that, you
Well-
know, or don't feel it anymore because their neurosis is too big.
Well, you know, it's all, let's face it too, half the guys that are in the music business are in it for pussy. But
Whether it's stoned or drunk,
yeah, the other half of the guys actually like playing music, and those are the guys that end up carrying on and having legs and stuff. But I mean, you'd probably attest to this. You probably had the same experience. I've had rehearsals that were just as exhilarating as playing in front of a screaming crowd with lights, because I was so into the music at that moment, and it
Yeah.
felt so good to groove and rock and roll with my brothers that I didn't care if anybody was watching. I've played gigs where you're playing for the bartender and the waitress, and man, it was just as fun. You know, like one of the biggest gigs I ever played in my very humble short career was you played at the Fox Theater in Atlanta.
great place.
Yeah, we're warming up for bigger bands, and the crowd was a local crowd. They all knew us, so half the crowd was ours. And you know, complete and utter adoration, unconditional love being thrown at us. And I've had just as much fun rehearsing.
Yeah.
You know, where I was just like, God, I'm just ecstatic. There's no word for it.
If you feel inspired, you feel inspired.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
and-
just in love with doing what I do, you know.
Yeah. That's why I was always somebody who would record rehearsals because somehow something would be played
Yeah.
that you would never play before, and you go, you know what? I actually came up with something that I thought was pretty cool, accidentally just playing because you guys got me on this vibe, and we were kidding around, and then you saved it and listened to it. And next thing you know, you wrote a song with it, or you incorporated it into your solo, or it became the intro of the song,
Right.
just by virtue of the fact that you were having fun. And I can't state that too much. Sometimes bands come to the studio and, they get nervous and they get uptight and all that. And I'm stop. We're not having fun. It's got to be fun. That's where it all started. If it's not fun, then it's not going to be any good. So
That's
let's
right.
have fun.
All right. So just for a minute, I had some guys with some tech questions.
Tech questions.
Bob, thanks for the chat and thanks for the kind words. That was really nice. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
sincerely.
the opportunity. All right. I'll
Oh
let
my
you
God! I
speak
just.
to our resident genius here. He'll be able to take care of all your
Oh,
technical
is he here?
problems.
Let me get out of the way. Anyway, so Joe Riggio said random tube tech question. Okay, yeah, hit me, baby. What do you need to know? Let's talk about for a minute. We'll recap Elvis. Thank you again to Bob and Brett for letting me invade your space. And we'll wrap her on up here. Oh, we hug all the time anyway, Dirty. Hendrix could feel it on a pawn shop gig. Yeah, that's right. Joe, are you still there? Joe Riggio? Well, I hope you guys got a good sense of what Elvis is about. NOS USA 5881s running in a 1959 Baseman with a GZ34 delivering high voltage. Because of today's wall voltage, yeah, it's going to be a little higher. Your B plus is going to probably be about 20 volts higher than it was in 59. Your weak spot there isn't going to be the 5881s. They take voltage really well. It's the rectifier tube. Can you measure the voltage coming out of your wall? As long as you're not over like 122, 121, 122, you're okay, probably. The most that anybody would have ever seen back then was 117. Most people saw 110 to 112 at their house. So for simple math, every volt that you get coming out of the wall will translate into 3 to 4 more volts of B+. Yeah, the GZ34 is going to go way before the 5881s will, so I wouldn't worry about that. But if you can measure the voltage coming out of your wall, measure it at different times of the day too, because your house will vacillate 4, 5, 6, 8 volts during the day. A power conditioner, especially for a 59 Baseman, which is a really valuable investment, I would really recommend getting a power regulator conditioner. Or you can just variac it down. But then when the wall sags, so does the variac. A power regulator will keep you at a solid, whatever you set it at. I would set it for 117. That's what that was designed for. Even though no one really saw 117, but that's what they were designed for in the factory. And get a regulator and set it at 117. Kirk Spencer asked, Dan, what 65 amps delivers the best cleans? Well, best is a subjective thing, Bob or Kirk, but the one that gives the loudest cleans is the producer. I think it does really good cleans. It depends on what kind of clean you want. You want Nashville blackface fender clean. You want Beatley clean. You want the birds clean. What kind of clean do you want? It's kind of a big question. Can you make a tube tremolo with overdrive and a pedal? Bad idea. It's not going to act the same because the pedal's always going to be at a different place in the signal chain than where this one is. It might be great. I don't know. I would imagine you could. I've never tried it. I say go for it. Synaptic Groove is on here. Do it. Yeah, what kind of clean do you want, Kirk? Is there any matching that must occur between the power conditioner and the amp? No. No, any power conditioner regulator will work. I mean, conditioning just gives you clean AC. Regulation lets you control the amount of AC coming in. So you need a unit that is a regulator slash conditioner. Conditioner just gets all the dirt out of the AC, which there's plenty. There's a lot. Which one do I recommend? Bob Sacco asks. It depends on how much you can afford. Entry level one's going to be $300-400, which sounds like a lot of money, but trust me, fellas, it's money well spent. Dirty 59 says he has the Furman AR 1215 and it gives consistent 120. That's right. The Furman ones are good. When you get to the entry level ones, you can't control the AC. It just gives you 120. When you go a little bit, you spend a little more money, you can get ones where you can dial it to where you want it. If you have, like in Joe Riggio's case, a 59 Baseman, you're okay at 120. It's still pushing the amp a little harder than it was designed for. So if you get a little nicer one, then you can dial it down to 115, 117, which is where those amps were really designed for. Don't know how to articulate clean. I know it when I hear it. Smooth, loud, balanced, not too bright. Well, I mean, the Producer 6L, I think, throws the widest clean net of anything that I make. You get a wide variety of cleans there. You can get 2 different flavors of American clean and a really good British clean out of it. If you're really focused on British cleans, then the Producer EL is going to do that better. I mean, low-powered amps do clean, but they're little tubes. There's the laws of physics. You just can't get much clean headroom out of them. The Monterey is a good one, too. We're not making that amp right now. If you're thinking about a Monterey, I would recommend you over to a Tupelo, which does a really good clean sound, but it's not real loud clean because it's just a pair of 6v6s. It's loud enough for most people, but if you want, super reverb up to twin reverb kind of cleans, it just, pair of 6v6s aren't going to do that. Is the Producer 6L clean that much different than the EL Producer? Yeah, it is. The EL Producer, like EL34s, I can make sound American, and I can take American tubes and make them sound British, but it's an imitation. Like if you really want big 6L6 sound, you're never going to get that out of EL34s. You're going to get something that's really good, but side by side with a 6L, it's just a different frequency response, a different behavior characteristic that you can't get out of. I can tailor the circuit quite a bit and make it sound pretty American, but there's some behavior characteristics of the 6L6 that you just can't fake. Jared is using a Monterey on SNL, and he's switching over to a Producer. And he's leaving back for New York in 2 weeks. I have to hook him up somehow. Does that help you, Kirk? I hope so. Yeah, we need to do a couple of shows where it's just a little more of the tech talk. I know some of you guys got used to it when I wasn't playing guitar on the show and we talked tech for an hour and a half. So I will next week try to dedicate at least half of the show to no guitars and and we'll just talk tech for a while. Yeah, Dirty 59 says I like the rolled off cleans at the 65 gibbs. It's because it's very, very responsive. Yeah, Kirk, I think you'll really dig the Producer 6L. It's fantastic. I've played it here on the show. I'll play it again soon. I think you'll be very pleased with it. The clean sounds are beautiful. And when you said not too bright, I mean, that's one of the characteristics of 6L6s is they're not a real bright tube. It's a very warm tube. Whereas a 6V6 is a very bright tube, relatively speaking. And a 6L6 will sound a little more balanced. A 6V6 has a little more mid-range to it because it's small. The smaller tubes give you more mid-range. Like an EL84, like in this amp, it's very mid-rangey, which is great for 20 things, one of which is not Nashville cleans. So I have an EVM 12L that you can have if you want. Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. Oh, shoot me an email. I'll give you something for it. Kirk Spencer says, I have a 2-amp rig and have been looking for the right amp to pair with my EL. Yeah, those 2 amps will go together well. Plus, you're never going to be out of phase with each other if you switch your channels in the same way. Yeah, you would be throwing an incredibly wide palette if you had both of those amps. Not to mention, I've played those amps in stereo before, and they complement each other really well. It's going to sound sick. Especially on the dirt, it's just going to sound immense having both of those together. Andre says, I got to hear an amazing demo of the Producer 6L with Buck Dharma. Yeah, that's right. Buck comes by NAMM every year and hangs out and plays.
Old friend of mine.
Yeah, and he's a sweet guy. And well, thank you, Kirk, and call me if you have any other questions or anything. Buck comes by every year, plays the amps, loves them. He always says he wants one, and then I don't know what happens. But super guy, and still plays his butt off. He sounds great. Little Elvis on one side and a JC120 on the other. What was the JC120 for, Synaptic Groove? To keep the door propped open, or? That was too easy, sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean it. It's just too easy. JC120. Ba-doom. Well, fellas, it's 1:37 here on the West Coast. Once again, Happy New Year to all my Hebrew brothers celebrating Rosh Hashanah this week. And I look forward to seeing you next week here at Office Studios. Thanks again to Bob Kulick and Brett Chasen for having me. And I think Brett went somewhere and passed out. Where did he go?
Who?
Brett.
I have no idea.
Just passed out. Anyway, life is good. I appreciate you guys sincerely. Thanks so much for your time. And I hope you had fun with little Elvis. And yeah, you got a little philosophy 101. We're good for that as well. And take it with a grain of salt. But thank you guys very much. I enjoy it. And I love all the good comments and all the positive interactions. I appreciate it sincerely. So we will talk soon. Have a good one, guys. Take care.